All right, welcome everyone to part 4 of the Idea Accelerator series. I hope everyone enjoyed part 1, and a lot of people got lighter mentally, maybe even physically. Sometimes when we give up our baggage, we lose weight. And we are on to part 2 of the Idea Accelerator series. Part 2 is focused in getting you in action and making things happen. So tonight's topic we're going to be talking about is communicating to create. Ideas don't happen in a vacuum, and sometimes they show that, the person just in their office coming up with this thing and launching it to the world, and it's a big success. That's about 0.1% of the ideas out there. For the rest of us, we need to be able to communicate it to get people behind it. So a big thank you and acknowledgement. I had a bunch of you schedule calls with me this week. It was fantastic. I so appreciate it. If you haven't taken advantage of taking time to have a call with me, I think everyone who has done their call felt like it was worth their while. And it was also an opportunity for me to answer questions and get people moving. So big thank yous to everyone who scheduled their calls. One of the things about big ideas, and it's the theme tonight, if you don't communicate it, you don't create it. So I'm reminding everyone, my personal goal is that because I published this book, because I'm doing this work, because I'm doing the press and the PR and the outreach, that there are 20 million people in the world who accomplish their ideas by the year 2020. And the other goal I have, which is a personal goal because I love doing philanthropy, I'm actually building a model off of this book on authors raising money for charity. And so my goal is actually to be able to raise $100,000 a year for my charities that I support from this book and my following books. So we'll have more on that later, but just putting my ideas in your space. So if you have an idea to help me make my idea happen, I get to hear it. All right. Really interesting thing came up when I did the call with you all. When I say call, I had multiple calls with multiple people over the last few weeks. But one of the things that I found myself explaining to people is why their idea list looks the way it does. So if you remember, I've asked you all to start capturing your ideas. And what's really fascinating to people when they start capturing their ideas, my left brain people complain that their ideas look like a to-do list. My right brain people claim that they just have big ideas and they don't know where to get started. And then when we get on the phone, I get a lot of, I should have done this, I should have done that, or I should have written it this way. And so one of the rules I want you to adopt, and one of my friends, Margaret Gardner, came up with this brilliant phrase, stop shooting on yourself. From this day forward with your idea generation, the I should have, would have, could have, take it out of your vocabulary. And recognize, if you're a left brain person, where you have to do your work, taking what looks like a to-do list and find the big idea in it. So tonight's webinar is going to be really helpful for you. So just one of the examples is, one of the people I had a phone call with mentioned that he wanted to do an energy audit for his church. That was his big idea. And he, like me, has a very technical background. And so I asked him, I said, that's great that you want to do an energy audit, but what's the bigger idea behind that? Why do you want to do an energy audit? And then when we got to discussing, he had really amazing reasons and stories and passion behind why he wanted to do the audit for the church. That is what I would tell you is the big idea. What he had underneath it was just one of the to-dos on the list of the big idea. On the flip side, when I talked to my right brain idea generators, they have the big idea, but few people had sat on it. They've been trying for sometimes a year, and I had one person who's been trying for years and years and years to do a particular idea, and a right brain person. So we focused on taking that big idea and breaking it down into actionable steps. So my request of you all is, A, know where your brain is, left or right. There's a few of us who are kind of in the middle, but most of us fall left or right, and just realize that the work you're going to do on your idea is getting either A, more ideas out of your to-do list, or B, more actions out of your ideas. So thank you so much for those feedback and questions on the one-on-one calls this week so I could share that with the rest of the class. Here's another fact that everyone on this call has to be aware of. This was news to me. I actually always believed I was one of the most Spockish people when it came to making decisions and doing things that were, whether it was a business decision or a personal decision or a family decision, that I just was very rational. And I found actually a fascinating study, and it's actually referenced in my book, so you'll find it in my book. You can go look up the link from the book and see this yourself, but realize when you're getting people to support your big idea, all decisions are emotional. And the study that was very fascinating to me that you all need to be aware of is when people have the part of their brain knocked out, the emotional part of their brain knocked out due to a traumatic brain injury, it does not matter how much data you give them, they cannot come to a decision. And that was a fascinating find for psychologists because there was a lot of stuff out there about rational decision-making versus emotional decision-making. So one of the things we're going to talk about with our communication is the realization that whether people want to participate, be a part of, or do anything regarding your idea, you're appealing to an emotional side. You'll give them data, and they'll process it, but they'll still process that data through their emotions. And that's something important to realize when putting ideas in place in the world. So if you can practice it, you can master it. That's why I've given you 8 practices in the book. So let's move forward. What we're going to cover tonight in your book is practice 3, communicate. And I love George Bernard Shaw, great quotes. His quote on the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's taken place is brilliant, pertinent, and still valid today. When it comes to ideas, we fail to communicate them well. The second thing we're going to talk about is, okay, great, I don't communicate well. What do I do with it? And so you can have the best idea in the world, and if only you get it, no one follows it. So we're going to talk about that tonight and how to create your, I call it your OM. The reason why I came up with the OM, thanks to my husband, was he said, you know, when you do ideas and you have to share them, it's like it gets in your DNA, and an OM is actually a meditation word. It also means God and other things, but it's really taking that message you want to get out to the world and putting it at such a deep level that you own that message. Second practice we're going to talk about tonight is build your plan. So, ideas are great, plans are better. And so Alan Letkin says, planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it right now. I'm going to give you 2 tools. We're going to email them to you after this webinar on how to help you do that. So look for that soon. Now, one of the things, and this is just a part of making your brains work and remember, you notice we always do a review. And why do I do that? Because it takes 3 to 7 times for you to see some data before it actually gets stuck here. And so we're going to do a quick review of the last few classes, just a quick 5-minute review to make sure that you have it. And then also there might be a couple of you on the call who might be behind, but you came in live tonight. Thank you so much. So this will get you up to speed. So if you remember part 1 before the holidays, we removed baggage because we needed to recharge your battery. And the big thing I wanted you to form the habit of is capturing your ideas. And we talked about capturing them on your iPhone, writing them in notes, anything you can, and then doing a weekly review of those ideas and deciding which ones you wanted to move forward. Because quite honestly, and it's a business statistic, it's probably even higher if we look personally, 99.9% of ideas launched fail to come to fruition. We would like to reverse that statistic. Now, part 2, we're going to talk about how to build your idea into reality. And then you had a bonus session on part class 3, so if all of you haven't listened to that bonus session, please do. And then we'll have another bonus session on class 6. so that I give you some supercharge in your engine. And those 2 sessions are based on the 2 upcoming books, Change Yourself, Change Others, Lead Yourself, Lead Others, that are coming, that I'm working on with the publisher right now after this one. Why would you invest time with me? Why are you sitting here on part 4 of this series? I hope it's because one of the messages you got loud and clear from me is what makes us feel alive is to be in our creative space. And so anything you can do to support that creative part of yourself is magical and important. It's the energy of life. It will keep you young. It will keep you connected. And I'm hopefully breaking bad habits. We are raised culturally, and almost every culture with few exceptions does the idea stagnation model, and we're trained into it, and this is how we end up. And we're trying to, by practicing and putting a formal ritual in place and something to follow, that you can keep yourself and your idea growing instead of letting it die. You remember I gave you your AAA plan. Be aware of your ideas, anchor it by writing down, and take action on that idea, even 5 minutes a day to keep your momentum going. In class 2 now, you remember we talked about some baggage. And I said you got to know your baggage around your idea, because if you don't, it owns you, and you will respond, fail, or succeed based on that baggage. And so the key to baggage is to make sure you know it's there. That's half the battle. And then you have to take action in the face of that. And so I told you 2 things in class 2, and I want you to remember these. Number 1, recognize the power of your views. Okay? And I taught you the cycle of self-fulfilling prophecy. And so what you think you can or can't do is what you will do. And that will reinforce your opinion of what you can or cannot do, and you can get into a vicious negative cycle or a luscious positive cycle on this particular model that I taught you. The second was realizing the power of commitment. And I showed you what I called the cycle of open possibility. So what I want you to realize is you can have views, even negative views, but make a commitment in the face of those views. So, for example, I have a lot of doubts that I can get to 20 million people by 2020. It's a pretty big goal, right? But I am committed to that, so even when I have days where I'm like, how am I going to do this, I still take action and find a way. And I'm getting more and more names on my list of people who are getting their ideas done working with my book. So you can act and your perceptions and views lose their power because you're committed no matter what to keep taking action. Now, we talked about 7 views that sync your ideas. I want to remind you, because all of us have these to one degree or another. Some are going to be big for us. Some may not be so big. Some of us may have all 7 really active. And then on class 3, I gave you some practice antidotes to the views, actions you can take that can actually help disempower this view for you. So if you remember, view number 1, we're not worthy. And I gave you an antidote. It's called no body, no buddy. And I talked about don't be a meteoric leader where you burn everything out physically and mentally you have and then crash and burn and have to do a recovery or end up in a breakdown. And I gave you 4 practices for no body, no buddy, so that when you feel like you don't deserve it, if you're taking care of yourself and you're feeling good, that undeserving thing tends to mitigate. We tend to get undeserving feelings when we are not nurturing and loving ourselves and we're waiting for someone else to provide that to us. And so if you remember, I said 8 hours a day of sleep. You can still work the other 16, my workaholics. I also said exercise for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes a day. The third thing was no sugars or grains except on the weekends. Saps your energy, causes inflammation. And the fourth one was meditating, breathing exercises twice a day. I do mine morning and evening. The honest Abe View was view number 2 we talked about in class 2. And then in class 3 I gave you the antidote, which is you have to commit to things that you find infeasible and unreasonable. Because if you only commit to what you think you can do, you can only deliver your past history. You can't deliver a future idea. Now Now remember the psychic view where I said you actually don't ask or don't do things because you know what that other person's going to tell you? Well, if you remember, the antidote was recognizing your story versus what was really fact or happening. So when you find yourself becoming a psychic, stop and just look at what the facts are versus what your psychic abilities are telling you as reality, and stay in action. How about the looking good view? What was that antidote? Worry to action. So there is no such thing as right worry. And so if you're worried about looking good, then the antidote to that is to say, okay, if I'm worried about looking good, what's an action I can take to make sure I look as good as possible? Instead of sitting there worried and not in action because you think that you can't get there because you're going to look bad. No is bad. This is the one you guys have to have the biggest breakthroughs on. You will have, in some ideas, hundreds, sometimes thousands of no's before you get yeses. And so I gave you an antidote on this one, and this is the one, reread this chapter in the book over and over and over again, because the antidote to no is bad is to consciously shift your view around no to a positive one. And the view I told you could try on was no is an opportunity to build amazing relationships. View number 6 we did in class 2. The antidote I gave you in class 3 was make yourself uncomfortable daily. And I told you I do something called the Selfie Exercise, where if I need to push myself out of the comfort zone, I'll go up to a total stranger, take a selfie with them, and say it's part of my leadership development. And, of course, I have amazing pictures with amazing people, and it's a lot of fun. So do one thing a day that makes you uncomfortable so you get over making other people uncomfortable. You get that it's a perception of a negative. It's not real. Last view, we talked about the F word, failure. And I actually gave you 2 practices on this one in class 3, 2 antidotes. The first one was, it's your fault first. So you failed. Great. Where did you fail? Take responsibility, fix it up, open space for others to own where they have it. But the second one I gave you was fail to learn, or mistake to learn. We normally fail, feel really, really bad anywhere from 5 minutes to years of our life. And the further we get away from the learn part, the worse we are and we respond to things wrong. And so the antidote is go straight from failing to learning, eliminate the feel bad and the blaming, whether it's you or yourself or others you're blaming. And if you can't resist feeling bad, like your psyche just wants you to do it, remember, limit it. Set a timer. Give yourself 5 minutes, but don't let it go on forever. The longer it goes on, the less action you're taking on your idea. All right, so thank you for doing that quick review with me. I hope that was helpful. Now, let's dive into practice 3, communication. So everybody on the phone, I'd like you to get ready to put in your chat box, why do you think people resist your ideas? Because I will tell you, statistically, most people are no's to new things. They're not yeses. It's not a normal thing in our culture, our families, our schools, or our workplaces for people to get behind brand spanking new things or ideas or changes immediately. So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and share in the chat box why you think people resist ideas or your plans or your proposals or your opinions. So we've got one, and it's because I don't share my ideas with them. That is actually very profound and very true. We tend to keep our ideas to ourselves, or if we share our ideas, we actually share them as a complaint, or we share our ideas wistful thinking of wishing or wanting. So definitely that was a good one. Another one that came up is I don't share my ideas well. And so absolutely you're right. One of the things, we're often brilliant in our own minds and we're very clear in our own minds, but we are forgetting the person opposite us may be completely from a different space, place, career, background, or life. In fact, one of the things I do when I work with my highly technical people is having them realize that they are actually a minority of the brain side of this society and world, and so that they're really trying to communicate to, most of the people they have to communicate to have brains completely opposite theirs, and they have to realize that. Other people do resist ideas. Someone said they want control. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they want credit. Sometimes it's not that they want control so much as the idea may make something feel out of control or uncomfortable. And we all fear that discomfort. And so people who resist ideas tend to want to have a controlled, predictable environment. Let's see if there's anything else. And yes, fear of something different, another great one. We do fear the unknown. We fear what's changed. It's been shown people will stay in bad jobs and bad relationships and all that kind of stuff simply because they fear what they would be without that relationship or that job, instead of finding something better, because they do. They fear something different. It's easier to stay in what you know and what's predictable. The other reason why ideas fail to happen is a lot of times, and I was very guilty of this myself in the early parts of my career, is if you build it, they will come. I always remember Field of Dreams movie. That was like the theme. If you build it, all these superstar baseball players will show up magically. Well, in the real world, if Kevin Costner had built that little baseball diamond, he'd have to do a little bit more than build the baseball diamond, or he'd be out of business and bankrupt. And that's what we're going to talk about today in communication, is we can't just build our ideas in a vacuum. There's actually a lot of people on the other side there with us. And it's not quite our fault about idea generation. And and I got one comment in the sides, Mark Twain, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. Yeah, that's another one in that, again, if you don't get it out there and you don't communicate it well, the better mousetrap, everyone will be like, well, the one I have works fine. Why would I go to a better mousetrap? I'm happy with the mousetrap I have. But it is not our fault that we have some trouble with idea generation, because most of us, even from a young age, whether it's in our school or in our families or in our workplace, we're taught to sell our ideas. And so we kind of, we prospect for someone who might be a good thing, and then we say, oh, are they a good person to have the idea with? And then we present the idea, and then we're like ready to argue with them. It's like, okay, they're going to object, and I'm going to tell them this, and I'm going to do that. And then once we get all that thing, then I'm going to go in for the kill and make the request and that. And then we're going to come back, and in the business world we say follow up and provide customer service. In family life or in personal life or professional life, that looks like, making the plans and pushing people. So that's one of the reasons why we're going to struggle with our communication, is we need to give up the idea of selling the idea. And I'm going to give you an alternative approach here in a minute. The other thing I need you guys to give up on is vision and mission statement. Why? We literally, in the business world, I get paid all the time to come out, work with organizations to develop vision and mission statements. And I do it. They're important for getting focus. They're important maybe for the team initially. But very few organizations, if I gave a poll right now, how many vision and mission statements of companies do you know off the top of your head? I would guess it's going to be close to zero. And if you do say you know it, what you're probably going to give me is a brand, a slogan, or a logo that kind of captures their vision and their mission. So one of the things I want to encourage you to do, especially if your idea is business-based, is recognize that if you're spending all your time crafting vision and mission statements, that's actually one of the least important things to an idea generation. And so get the core of it, but don't spend months wordsmithing it. I actually remember I was with the board of directors in a corporation, and they spent over an hour arguing over the use of a couple words. And I literally timed them out, and I said, at the end of the day, none of your customers will look at your vision or mission statement. They're going to look at your presence, your value, and your messaging to the world. And so let's just stop and call it done. And so realize that with yourself. It's important to have a vision and an idea, and it's important to have methods for getting it done. But in making it happen in the world, how you speak about it, think Nike, just do it. I mean, you think Apple, you think the Apple icon, and that implies a certain level of cool and sophistication and the latest, sexiest thing. You know, you're going to find a way simpler way to communicate your idea than a vision or a mission statement. So the new approach we're going to work with is what I call a value-based approach to getting your idea out there. So the minute you come up with an idea, and I'm focusing right now on things that you're doing maybe in your school, your community, your work, your office, okay, first, and then we'll talk about kind of the personal side of making a personal goal happen. But you want to create a value for whoever it is that you want to participate in this idea. So you can have the best idea in the world, and if no one perceives that they get any value out of it, and it doesn't touch their lives, they won't participate in it. So think about, let's say you have a new product you want to bring to the market, and you've got this product looking a certain way, but you've never actually given it to people, had them play with it, had them give you feedback and say, like, what does this thing do? How does it make your life better? You know, because people want to hear that side of it versus this is the product. You know, isn't it beautiful, sexy, and whiz bang? On the personal side of creating value, and I'll use my personal one, which was when I knew I needed to lose a huge amount of weight and get in shape. When I shared my idea of doing this with my family and with my friends, the value to them was that I was going to be healthier, I was going to have more energy, we were going to be able to go out and do cooler stuff, you know, and so they got excited and behind supporting me, you know, where I got to the point where people were calling me to go exercise, or my husband was making special meals, so I stayed on my diet. So value can be as one-on-one as your family idea to a huge, what is the value for the niche or the community at large you're trying to impact? That could be hundreds, millions, and, you know, the earth is a big place. You could have an idea you want to impact billions. Then, once you're clear on that, so we're going to talk about creating your own tonight so that you can really get that value clear. Then you get to build the network and relationships that will keep that going and alive around you. It will support you, and it will support the idea. The other thing to realize, and you know, back when I did this work in the 80s, we were in what was called a me cycle. We're in a we cycle right now. And one of the things that's the distinction between cycles where everybody's trying to be sexy and powerful and very male energy and don't show your weak side and all that kind of stuff, that's not flying anymore. And so being real, staying open, taking feedback, you know, being connected, not putting on fake fronts, that's really, really important when getting your idea out there. And so, you know, in Texas we have an expression, don't put lipstick on a pig. And so with your idea, we want to make sure that you also stay real, take feedback, and don't put things on your idea that aren't genuine. People are going to detect it, and like I said, we're in a we cycle. We're in about year 5 or 6, I think, of our we cycle, so you got about a good 10 to 15 years before people might swing back to the bravado side of idea generation. So let's talk about your OM. So for me, your OM is your 1-minute mission message. Why 1 minute? So I've played with 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 5 minute. It used to be in the old days, they used the expression elevator speech and things like that. And I will tell you, and I've trained thousands, and I mean thousands of people now on this, if you can share your idea in a minute, you're golden. It's in your DNA. People get it. And they're listening and they're engaging. And so that's why when I came up with the formula for the 1-minute mission message, I was like, I've tested them all, And 1 minute's the sweet spot in what my research shows me and with the people that I've worked with. So how do you create an OM? Most people, I will tell you, resist having an OM, and the reason they resist it is this. It feels practiced to them, or they feel like they're memorizing it, or they're going to sound rehearsed. What's going to happen in reality if you follow the script I'm giving you, it's going to actually make you really comfortable, and no matter what circumstance you're in, to communicate it. And it will sound genuine and from the heart because that's how we are giving you it to script. And so the minute you're like, okay, I have an idea, I want to share it with someone, you're going to take out a piece of paper and say, for the people I'm sharing it with, and if it's multiple audiences, you may have multiple values to each audience. But with your OM, you find out what is it about that idea that they will get value out of, what is the action you want them to take, and what is the outcome you want out of sharing that idea. And then you figure out how to say that in plain language versus sounding like a telemarketer on a charity call that we all get at 9 o'clock at night. And so I work well with scripts. And so I've given you the script of what I use when I do my OMs, and I work with my clients on their OMs. So when I'm writing it out, first and foremost, we forget to just connect with people. And when I say connect, it's literally that I'm a human being, you're a human being, how are you? How's your day? How's it going? You know, not in a manipulative fashion, because I hate it when I get people who literally you can tell they're going through a script and they're saying it just a minute. They're not actually genuinely interested. They're just asking you the question. I really want you, and why I call it an OM, is to center yourself and be like, I'm in front of this person. They are a gift to me. Or I'm in front of this group. They are a gift to me. They are going to make my idea happen. I want to connect with them in a real, genuine fashion. How would I do that? Okay, that's part one of your OM script. Part two is to share the idea simply and speak to it in terms of values and what they're going to get from it versus its XYZ PDQ. Okay? So an example of this might be, and it's funny, I just was on an internet marketing webinar, so this one's going to be the freshest in my mind to share is, you know, you have this product that this person was doing, and it was going to cause, it was actually going to short circuit their steps for getting venture capital. And, you know, normally it would take you years sometimes to get enough backing in venture capital, and they created this new process and a way to get to venture capitalists. And so, you know, they're sharing the idea is, you know, what if you needed to get your hands on $50,000? What if we could give you something that would allow you to do that in less than 90 days? What if we could take what normally would take you 100 hours and cut that down to 30 hours? You know, and so like all those are values. They save time, they save money, they save, you know, suffering and things like that. That's what you're looking for in step two of your OM. Number three is, why should they take action? Why is it needed? Why should they do it now? Where is the urgency? Some of you may have ideas that you need to happen soon. So make sure you put something in there that says the why and what action. Number four, I always laugh because when I first start working with groups on their ideas and have them come up in front of the room, the most common thing that is missing from their script is an actual request to the person they're sharing the idea with to take action. Now, some of us share ideas just to share ideas, but most of the time you're sharing your idea because you want that person to either engage with you, participate, promote it, become a volunteer, do something with you. So make sure, number four of the script is ask them for something and be clear on what you're going to ask them for. Number five is you complete the conversation. And then six is always, 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 if someone gives you their life energy for 60 seconds, 5 minutes, 50 hours, I don't care how long or short, sincerely thank them. They could have spent their time elsewhere. They only have so many ticks on the clock. They spent it with you. They allowed you to have their idea. So You're looking at that probably and going, that's 6 things, and you think I can get that all done in 60 seconds? You will be amazed. Maybe the first time you do it, it's like 90 seconds or 2 minutes, but you'll find as you get more and more comfortable and you get really excited about your idea and you follow this, it's going to shave down. And just so you know, people have trouble paying attention for more than a minute anyways, so it behooves you to get it out in a minute. So follow this and increase your success rate. All right. So in your chat boxes, I would like you all to ask me to a party. So you can ask me however you want to ask me to a party. So just type in your chat box, whatever you want to type, and say, hey, and let's see what you come up with. So, and then we're going to take it back and play with it. Don't be shy. I won't tell you no. If it's a really good party, I'll come. I promise. All right. Come on, guys. I can hang here as long as you. Gayla, margaritas at 8. Woman after my own heart. But I love margaritas, but not tonight. I don't think so. Anyone else want to try? Kind of busy. Here's one. It's about that time of year to have more fun. How about a party? Clay, I love parties. I really do love parties. But I just got off a big round of parties and I'm a bit partied out, so maybe later. How about, Debbie says, do you have plans this Friday? I actually do, but thank you for asking. Oh, and Daniela, we've got, says, tomorrow we're having a housewarming party. See you there. Maybe it's kind of short notice. I'm pretty busy. In fact, I'm going to be on TV tomorrow, so I won't be making it. But thank you, Daniela, for the invite. So, here is a golden opportunity for you all. Next time you throw a party, I want you to ask people using the OM script. And the reason why is what you're going to see is a really fun way to practice mastering something. And so what you're going to find out is, and I had a brilliant student in one of my classes who, caught on really fast, and she goes, Elizabeth, how are you doing today? Are you busy right now? And she was like, I'm having this party, and I hear you're a master event planner, and that, if I want to have the best party in the world, I need to have you involved in it. And I know that you love to make connections, and you're trying to promote your book right now. And then she, went into this, and then she gave me the action she wanted me to take, and then made the request, and she followed the whole script, right? And I was laughing by the end of it, and I said, if that had been a real request, I would have said yes. So this is a fun way for you, and whether it's going to a party, going out with someone, getting someone to go to lunch with you, it's a great, fun way to practice your own. So I'm giving you homework, obviously, to practice your own, but I want you to have some fun ways to practice it and play with it and see how easy it is to create an OM and have it just be automatic anytime you have an idea and you want to share it. So let's talk about a little bit of sabotage that we do to ourselves. And thank you, everyone, for inviting me to your parties. And by the way, if you're all in Austin, Texas, or ever in Austin, Texas, please do feel free to invite me out. Quite a social person, and I love to go out. But you're going to do some things called sabotaging your idea. So there are 2 words you're going to start using. First one's called try to. Second is hope to. So when you first start writing your OMs and you get nervous, you're like, I'm going to try to this, and we hope to do that, and we're thinking this, and that. All that is self-sabotaging language. And so when it comes to your idea, another reason why I have you master your OM is so you can eliminate anything in your speaking that uses the words try to, wish to, hope to. And I always remember being in this presentation. We were giving a proposal, and we were doing a proposal against another group, and the guy got up from the other consultant, and he did this thing, and he said, oh, we're going to try to do this, we're going to, help you with that, and all that kind of stuff. And then when I got up and did mine, I said, we will do this. This is our goal for you. Here's the outcomes. And this is where we are going to have you be at the end. So there was no try to, hope to. It was like, this is my, and I even said, this is my commitment to you all. So you can guess which person got the work in that situation. And it was funny because the gentleman afterwards came up to me, and he was pretty upset. But then he was like, we had a conversation about it, and I said, well, it was just, I said, you're amazing. He's actually a great person. I know his company and everything. And he said, but they were just eating your words. And I said, it was because you tried to and you hoped to too much in your presentation. And so it is. It's like with your ideas, you got to be able to take that self-sabotaging words out of it. Have faith in yourself. You are capable of way more than you think. And the worst that's going to happen if you say you're going to do it and you fail is you clean up and you learn. And that's part of life. So there are very few failures in life that will completely ruin you. You can look at a lot of famous people who've screwed things up way bigger than all of us folks, and have still come back and had comeback stories. So don't worry about being strong and being and knowing what you want to create in the world. So you're going to get some homework. I want you to craft your own on one idea. Practice it with yourself. I want you to schedule a call and practice it with me. And it's a short call. I mean, even if you can only give me 5 minutes of practice, just do it. Get on my schedule. And then any of you who are willing to practice it next class for the class, I have a reward for you. And so I would love some of you to be willing to actually do your own in class 5. So let me know. All right, last thing we're going to cover tonight is practice 5, building your plan. So once you get your own, and people get excited, and they want to support you, and they want to be behind you, a lot of times they're going to ask, what's next? You got to have the what's next. That's going to be your plan. So things in your plan to plan are making sure you've got your big idea and your commitments, that you've set goals, that you've come up with some actions, that you know what resources it's going to take, that you know what meetings, that you have an idea who you want on your team, that you've got a budget if needed, a schedule, metrics to show it's successful. Those are all basic. You'll find that in any project management course 101. Now, all of you may have way more sophisticated tools than the one I'm going to give you. But what I will tell you is, even me, who's a trained project manager, and I've used every sexy project management tool out there, will tell you, in reality, this cheat sheet that I'm going to provide you, it's a simple idea plan, works. And in fact, if you can complete this for each of your ideas, if you complete nothing else but this, you will have a hugely higher percentage rate at your idea coming to fruition than even using some of the sexiest stuff out there. I've been very fascinated because I do little tests with my clients. I'm lucky enough to have worked in over 50 different business sectors on what works and doesn't work, and the little idea plan I'm giving you, it works. Now, the thing that you can realize is once you make this, it's like, uh-oh, how do I keep myself accountable daily? So I thought I'd share my own personal thing that I do. So this is this week in Elizabeth's life. And what you can see is it's color-coded every hour of the day from wake to sleep. In fact, I showed you the later hours, there's actually bedtime on my Outlook calendar. I take for each idea what I have to do on it, and I actually map out 6 months. And then I do 3 months, 6 months, 12 months once a year, and then I revise, and every week I actually on Monday look and make sure what I'm going to do that week on my ideas. And so what this allows me to do is A, make sure that I take action, and B, you'll notice over here on Saturday there's a big pileup of stuff. There's stuff I don't have time for, but sometimes life changes, schedules change, things get canceled. And so I kind of throw on my Saturday things that I could pick up and move back to my week that I want to do on my various ideas that I have that I'm in the midst of launching. And this is just with Microsoft Outlook, so you don't have to use any specific, really complex or expensive tools to make your big idea happen. Now, time check, we're at 7:51. That's the content we're going to go over tonight. Any questions? We're going to reconvene, of course, next Tuesday and talk about building your team, your case, and your base. Again, all really critical stuff with idea generation. So I'm going to give you guys just a moment to ask some questions, and if you don't have any, good luck. I hope to hear from all of you this week. Burn up Deanna's inbox with your own, and get on the schedule with me. I'm here for you, and I would love to hear your ideas. All right. Thanks, everyone. I don't see any questions. Give you guys a minute or two more. All right. Thank you, everyone, for spending this time with me and giving me your life energy. And quick reminder, if you haven't scheduled a call with me yet, it's never too late. I never take that offer back. So give Deanna an email at m2m@thrivalcompany.com, and she will get you on my schedule. Thanks, everyone. Have an amazing night.